In the heart of New Orleans, where the streets pulse with jazz and secrets simmer beneath the surface, a voice rises in the dark, a voice that turns heads, stops time, and stirs hearts. Her name is Emma Laurent, a rising jazz singer whose talent could light up any stage, if only the city would give her a fair shot. By night, she sings her soul out at the smoky Crescent Club. By day, she's dodging shady deals and whispered rumors, struggling to protect her music and herself from a powerful club owner with dangerous intentions. Behind the bar, Liam Hayes watches quietly. Just a bartender, or so it seems. But Liam carries a secret bigger than the club, bigger than the city. He could change Emma's life with a single move, but at what cost? As schemes tighten around her and trust begins to fracture, Emma must navigate a stage far more treacherous than any she's performed on before. What happens when love is hidden behind a mask, and the truth threatens everything? Will Emma choose the spotlight, or the man in the shadows? Hit subscribe to discover the passion, betrayal, and breathtaking redemption in this unforgettable love story. Because not every hero wears a suit, and not every truth is told under the spotlight. The first note she sang sliced through the smoky air like a moonbeam through fog. Emma Laurent stood beneath the dim spotlight of the Crescent Club's cramped stage, her eyes half closed, one hand gripping the mic stand like it was her last anchor to the earth. The crowd hushed as the piano hummed behind her. Then came the voice, rich, aching, full of memory and longing. A voice that didn't just fill the room. It wrapped around people, climbed into their ribs, and made them remember things they'd buried. In the back of the club, Liam Hayes paused mid-pour, a stream of bourbon trembling in the glass he held. His eyes locked onto Emma like the rest of the room, but for him, the stillness wasn't surprise. It was awe. He'd heard voices before. He'd chased music around the country, seen polished professionals and starry-eyed hopefuls, but Emma's voice? It felt like truth with a tempo. Raw, unfiltered, deeply human. "Careful, rookie," murmured Carla, the older bartender with salt and pepper braids. She smirked as she caught his dazed expression. "She'll have you writing poetry in napkins before the night's done." Liam smiled but said nothing. Carla didn't know he'd already written 2 lines. Across the room, Victor Moreau leaned against a corner booth, swirling a glass of scotch. His slicked-back hair and silver cufflinks gleamed in the low light. He watched Emma not like a fan, but like a man who thought he owned the air she breathed. As Emma wrapped her set, the applause was warm, genuine. She gave a small bow and disappeared behind the curtain that led to the back hallway. Carla passed Liam a clean rag, nodding toward the stage. "She's good, huh?" Liam wiped the counter without answering. His jaw had gone tight, eyes tracing the path Emma had vanished down. Something about the way Victor had stared at her. It didn't sit right. After the rush slowed, Emma reappeared at the end of the bar, tucking a stray curl behind her ear. Her voice was hoarse, her smile tired. "Can I get a chamomile tea? If that's not too fancy for this place," she joked softly. Liam chuckled and pulled out the last sachet. "You lucked out. 1 left?" She raised a brow. "Then maybe I should sing a second set." "I think the room would thank you," he said, placing the steaming cup gently in front of her. Their fingers almost brushed. Emma held his gaze a second longer than necessary. "You're new," she said. "Haven't seen you before." "Liam," he replied, drying his hands. "Started last week. Figured a little jazz might teach me to slow down." She tilted her head, studying him. "You don't strike me as the slowing down type." He gave a modest shrug. "Guess we're both hiding something." Before she could ask more, Victor's voice cut through the haze. "Emma," he called from his booth. "A word?" Her smile thinned. "Duty calls." She lifted her tea in thanks, then turned and walked toward the corner, spine straightening with each step. Liam watched as Victor leaned in close, talking low but firm, gesturing toward a folder on the table. Emma's expression went from curious to cautious. She shook her head, then looked around, eyes briefly scanning the bar until they flicked past Liam, as if she'd forgotten he was there. But he hadn't forgotten her. Liam's jaw set. He didn't know the details, but he knew that look. Pressure masked as persuasion. And he'd seen too many artists get boxed in by men like Victor, locked into contracts that drained them dry and left them voiceless. This time, Liam thought maybe someone would stand between the music and the machine. And maybe, just maybe, that someone would be him. Victor Moreau was already pouring himself another scotch when Emma slid into the booth across from him. Her cup of tea was still warm in her hands, but her nerves were already cooling. "I don't have all night," she said softly, more tired than rude. Victor smiled, wolfish. "Just 5 minutes, sweetheart. That's all I need to change your life." She hated when he called her that. Victor slid the folder across the table. Inside was a thick contract, high gloss, with her name printed in elegant script at the top. Emma Laurent. Exclusive Performance Agreement. Emma's fingers hovered but didn't touch. "You know I've been working independent." "Sure," Victor said. "Scraping together gigs across dingy stages, worried your tips won't cover gas. That's noble. Romantic, even. But how long can you hold out before someone else comes in and packages you the wrong way?" Emma lifted her chin. "And you think you're the right way?" "I'm offering you stability," he said. 3 nights a week here, monthly features at my other venues, studio sessions with real producers, a personal stylist, vocal coach, marketing. You'll have your own press kit before next Friday." She tried not to flinch as he leaned forward. "But it comes with a price," she said. "Doesn't it?" Victor's smile dropped, but only slightly. "You want this city to hear you or not? Because I can open doors, or I can make sure they stay shut. You know how it works." Emma sat still, watching his eyes, watching the cold certainty in his expression. He believed he was her only way forward. Maybe, just maybe, he wasn't wrong. But she didn't sign. "Let me think on it," she said carefully, and stood without waiting for permission. Back at the bar, Liam was wiping down the counter even though it was already clean. He'd been watching, discreetly but carefully. When Emma returned, she was quieter. Her shoulders didn't sit as square. "You okay?" he asked gently. Emma hesitated, then gave him a tired smile. "Just the usual, jazz and negotiations." Liam hesitated. He wanted to ask more, to offer help, but he was still just the bartender to her, not the man who could buy out this whole block if he wanted to, not yet. Instead, he reached under the bar and pulled out a small takeout box. "What's this?" "Leftover beignets from the kitchen, still warm. You look like you skipped dinner." Emma stared at it for a moment, then chuckled softly. "You always feed the singers, or just the tired ones?" "Just the ones who make the room go quiet," he said. She sat and took a bite. Powdered sugar clung to her lips, and for the first time all night she looked like herself again. "I shouldn't even be here," she mumbled through a mouthful. "My rent's due, my car needs a new radiator, and now I've got a club owner waving promises in my face like a carrot." Liam leaned in, lowering his voice. "Don't let desperation choose for you." She looked up, surprised by the weight of those words. "I've been where you are," he added, which was only a half lie. "Sometimes the worst deals come dressed in opportunity." Emma studied him for a long beat, and something in her eyes softened. "Thanks, bartender," she said, raising the beignet in salute. "You give good advice for a guy who pours liquor." "Maybe I'm just overqualified," Liam said with a grin, but it faded the moment she turned away. That night, after the club emptied and Emma's heels clicked into the distance, Liam stayed behind. In his private email, set up under a pseudonym, he began drafting a message. Subject: Artist Spotlight Opportunity, Crescent Talent Collective. He listed her name, then 3 upcoming showcases, then the promise of no exclusivity and full creative control. He hovered over the send button for a moment, heart thudding. She wouldn't know it was him, not yet. But one way or another she was going to sing her way out of Victor's grip, and he was going to make sure of it. Emma rubbed her eyes as the morning sun crept through the blinds of her shotgun apartment in Treme. The faint hum of saxophones echoed from a block away. New Orleans never truly slept, and neither had she. Her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. The screen showed an unfamiliar email address, info@Crescent Talent Collective. Calm. She nearly deleted it. Probably spam, but something about the subject line, Jazz Rising Showcase Invitation, no fees, full control, gave her pause. Emma clicked, scanning the crisp message. A new talent collective, local showcases, no exclusivity, no management cut, and guaranteed payment up front. Her brows furrowed. That kind of offer didn't exist. Not here. Not in this town where artists paid to be noticed, where the wrong handshake could trap you for years. Still, the showcase listed was at the Orpheum Annex, a respected venue with a real soundboard and actual seating, not folding chairs and a rusty mic. She scrolled to the bottom. No names, no photos, just the agency's emblem, a stylized crescent moon with musical notes trailing like stars. Ghosts, she murmured. A ghost agency. She called Mel, her keyboardist and sometimes ride or die when her car broke down. "You ever heard of Crescent Talent Collective?" she asked. "Nope. Why?" "They just offered me a gig. 2, actually. Real venues." "You sure it's not a scam?" Emma hesitated. "They don't ask for money. They're paying me." Mel laughed. "Girl, take it. If it's fake, at least you get a story out of it." That night, Emma stepped onto the stage at the Orpheum Annex, clutching her mic like it was the only real thing in the room. The lights felt cleaner here. The crowd, attentive. No clinking glasses, no Victor in the shadows. She sang a stripped-down version of Strange Fruit, her voice threading pain and pride together in a way that made the whole room hold its breath. When she finished, there was a moment of stillness, then thunderous applause. Backstage, a clipboard-wielding woman approached. "Emma Laurent, your check." She handed over an envelope. Emma opened it and blinked. $800 for one set. "Wait, who booked this?" "Crescent Talent," the woman said. "They handle all the local jazz bookings now. You're lucky. They only work with a few." Emma's mind raced. She wanted to know who was behind this, who saw her, believed in her. But there was no website, no contact number, just a post office box and an email. 2 weeks later, she'd played 4 more gigs, all paid in cash or check, all smooth, and all with no sign of Victor. He hadn't called, hadn't cornered her. It was like someone had quietly moved her out of his chessboard. Liam watched each night from afar, never in the front row, never too visible. He'd arrive early, tip the sound crew, and sit quietly near the back, sipping club soda while her voice filled the room. Each time she sang, he felt it deeper. This wasn't a hobby anymore. Protecting her, supporting her from the shadows, it felt necessary. Like she was singing the truth he hadn't had the courage to speak himself. But it couldn't stay a secret forever. At the Crescent Club, Victor's patience was beginning to crack. His crowds had shrunk. His headliner was gone. And now, new talent was rising from nowhere. He slammed his fist onto his office desk. "Where the hell is this agency coming from?" he muttered. "Nobody books this fast without knowing someone." He picked up the phone and made a call to his old friend on the licensing board. "I need a name. Whoever's behind Crescent Talent Collective." Back in her apartment, Emma lit a candle and journaled by the window. She didn't know who was watching out for her, or why, but for the first time in years, the music felt hers again. Still, some part of her couldn't shake the question, Who believes in me enough to give this without asking for anything in return? Victor Moreau lit a cigarette behind the Crescent Club's back entrance, eyes narrowed at the sound of applause echoing down the block. He didn't need to check the schedule. He already knew who was on that mic. Emma Laurent. He flicked ash toward the sidewalk, his thoughts tangled and bitter. Weeks ago, she'd turned down his deal. Softly, not defiantly, but it was still a slap. Now she was everywhere. Packed showcases, word-of-mouth buzz, mentions in local jazz columns, and always through that mystery outfit, Crescent Talent Collective. Victor didn't like ghosts, especially not ones messing with his territory. So he made a call to someone at the Marini Beat, a local music blog known for gossip disguised as reviews. He didn't say much, just dropped a name, added a few poisonous suggestions. "She's not just singing," he told the editor. "She's got arrangements, especially with that new agency." By Friday, the article was live. Emma Laurent, overnight sensation or something more? It didn't name names, but it didn't have to. It hinted, it questioned, and it stung. Emma sat on the edge of her bed, phone clutched in hand, rereading the headline. Her throat burned. Her roommate, Nia, a hairdresser with zero tolerance for industry shade, stood nearby, arms crossed. "This is garbage," Nia said. "Straight up lies." Emma scrolled through the comment section. Half cheers, half sneers. One stuck out. "She probably slept her way onto those stages. Nobody gets booked that fast unless they're booking something else behind closed doors." Her stomach turned. "I don't even know who runs the agency," Emma muttered. "Exactly," Nia said. "They're just mad a black woman's out here rising without a man pulling the strings. So they're inventing one." Emma forced herself to breathe. She couldn't afford to spiral. Not now. Still, a part of her wondered. Who was behind Crescent Talent Collective? Why hadn't they come forward? Why stay invisible? At the club that night, Liam noticed her silence before she even stepped on stage. Her usual pre-show energy, soft smiles, humming in the wings, was gone. She looked like she was walking through rain only she could feel. After her set, she didn't linger, just grabbed her coat and made for the back exit. Liam caught up just as she pushed open the side door. "Hey!" She paused, barely turning. "Hey! You were incredible tonight," he said gently. Emma gave a hollow chuckle. "Apparently I'm too incredible." Liam frowned. "What do you mean?" She sighed, folding her arms. "You didn't see the article?" "No." "Well, it's out there. People think I'm trading more than talent for these gigs." Liam's jaw clenched. He wanted to tell her everything, to say I booked you because I believe in you. I protected you because I care. But he couldn't. Not without unraveling the quiet support she'd come to rely on. So he simply said, "That's ridiculous. Anyone who's heard you knows you earned every stage." She looked at him, eyes tired. "Yeah, well, sometimes truth doesn't sell as well as scandal." The moment hung between them, a breath too long. Then Emma turned away. "Thanks for the tea," she said, the old warmth flickering just briefly. "I'll see you around." Liam watched her disappear into the night, heart sinking. He thought giving anonymously would protect her, shield her from pressure, from expectations. But now that same invisibility was giving people room to write their own twisted stories. He walked back inside, jaw tight. If he didn't do something soon, Victor, and everyone like him, was going to rewrite Emma's narrative. And Liam had come too far, seen too much, to let that happen. The rust-colored dawn painted New Orleans in muted hues as Liam sat on his balcony, staring at a folder filled with studio contacts and media connections. He hadn't touched these in years, not since he'd stepped away from the public side of tech. But Emma's face from last night, the disappointment, the weight of that rumor, stayed with him like a ghost. He had the power to shift the narrative, not with confrontation, with amplification. By noon, he was on the phone with Maya Pritchard, a friend from college who now worked as a programming director at WJX, the most popular radio station in the city. "I don't usually do this," Liam said. "Do what?" Maya teased. "Call me after vanishing for a decade?" He smiled but stayed focused. "I'm sending you a track, a live performance by a local jazz singer, Emma Laurent. I need you to hear her, really hear her." There was a beat of silence. "You ever ask me for a favor like this before, Hayes?" "No," he said, "because I've never been this sure of someone." Maya didn't ask any more questions. "Send it." By that evening, Emma was backstage at a small club in Bywater, running scales softly. Mel walked in mid-phrase, phone in hand. "Turn it up," he said, thrusting the phone toward her. Emma blinked, confused, until she caught her own voice, her recording, pouring out of the radio. JJX, primetime feature, a local spotlight segment. Her breath caught. "And that was Emma Laurent," the host said, a rising voice from the Crescent City, soulful, powerful, and impossible to ignore. "She's the kind of artist that makes you sit up and feel. Remember the name?" Mel beamed. "Girl, you're on the radio." She covered her mouth with her hand, overwhelmed. "I didn't submit anything. How did they get it?" And shrugged. "Does it matter? You just got stamped as legit." For the first time since that bitter article dropped, Emma felt her spirit lift. Across town, Victor heard the same segment from his office. His scotch went untouched. He paced, furious. She was supposed to crawl back, regret, apologize. Instead, she was rising, and someone was helping her, quietly, strategically. And Victor didn't like what he couldn't control. At the bar that night, Emma arrived early. She wore a soft blue dress and a small smile, but there was something different in her eyes, relief, maybe, or the faint return of confidence. Liam poured her tea before she even asked. "You were incredible today," he said softly. Emma looked at him, brow raised. "You heard it?" "Couldn't miss it. You sounded like you belonged there." She smiled faintly, studying him. "Funny, I've been getting all these gigs and now a radio feature, but I don't even know who's behind it all." Liam tried not to flinch. "Someone sent that performance in," she continued. "It was a live set, not something I recorded." "Maybe someone believes in you," Liam said gently. She nodded, but her gaze lingered a second longer than usual. "Yeah, maybe." The moment swelled between them, comfortable but edged with curiosity. "Anyway," she said, rising from the stool, "time to go earn that airplay." Liam watched her walk away, heart torn between pride and guilt. He wanted her to know, to see it was him, but he also knew the weight of revelation too soon. It could crush what they were building before it had the chance to grow. Still, he couldn't help but whisper, once she was out of earshot, "I'll keep lifting you, Emma, even if you never know it's me." Backstage, Emma stood behind the curtain, waiting for her cue. The applause from the last act faded. She exhaled. Not for Victor, not for some faceless benefactor. Tonight, she sang for herself. Sunday mornings in New Orleans were slow and soulful. The scent of chicory coffee lingered on every street corner, and the saxophones in Jackson Square always seemed to play a little softer after church let out. Emma and Liam walked side by side, through the French market, takeaway beignets in a greasy paper bag between them. Powdered sugar clung to Emma's cheek like snow that forgot to melt. "Okay, so you've lived here 6 months," she said, tearing off a bite, "and you've never been to the market?" Liam smiled. "I'm more of a late-night person." "Figures," she said, licking her thumb. "You've got that mysterious bartender with a past energy." He chuckled. Is that your professional opinion? As a singer/hustler? Absolutely. They stopped near a bench where an elderly woman was painting streetcars in watercolor. Emma dropped a couple dollars in her tin, then sat. Liam joined her, more tentative. I heard you've got another radio segment airing next week, he said casually. Emma raised a brow. Yeah, no idea how, but it's helping. She didn't add that the rumors had started to fade, that the club bookers who used to dismiss her were now calling, that she finally felt seen. But it's weird, she continued, brushing sugar from her jeans. I still don't know who's behind Crescent Talent. No website, no social media, just an email that answers like clockwork but never says a name. Liam tensed slightly but kept his gaze steady. Maybe they like staying out of the spotlight. Maybe, Emma said, then, more thoughtfully, or maybe they're hiding something. Liam opened his mouth to reply, but she interrupted. Actually, that reminds me. She pulled out her phone and turned it toward him. On the screen was a photo. Liam, dressed in a sleek black tuxedo, standing at some upscale event under a banner that read Silicon South, Innovators Gala. Liam froze. Emma watched him closely. A friend sent this to me. Said you looked familiar from some tech piece a few years ago. He cleared his throat, carefully choosing his words. I used to work in tech. Startups. I left it behind. Left it behind to pour drinks in New Orleans? He looked away. Let's just say I needed a reset. Emma studied him for a moment. Her expression wasn't accusatory, more curious, but a subtle layer of doubt had settled behind her eyes. You're not with the agency, are you? Liam shook his head too quickly. No, I swear, I wouldn't lie to you. Emma didn't press, but something shifted between them. Not broken, just cracked, like a note sung a fraction off key. Later that night, Liam stood alone behind the bar at the Crescent Club, hands buried in his pockets. Carla approached, setting down a stack of glassware. Everything good with your girl? Liam looked up. She's not my girl. Carla raised an eyebrow. You keep watching her like she's the last train home. He gave a short, dry laugh. I messed up, he said quietly. I started all this thinking I could help from a distance, that staying anonymous would keep it clean. But now, I'm not sure if I've made things better or worse. Carla leaned on the counter, voice softer now. We all wear masks, Liam. Just don't wait too long to take yours off. Across the city, Emma lay awake, staring at the ceiling fan as it creaked lazily overhead. She didn't distrust Liam, not entirely, but she knew when someone was holding back. And in her world, secrets had always come with strings. Victor Moralo wasn't used to losing. He paced the length of his dimly lit office at the Crescent Club, the sound of his leather shoes hitting the worn wood floor echoing like a metronome of growing frustration. Emma's name was now a fixture on every lineup worth anything in New Orleans. The crowds weren't coming for his club anymore. They were following her, and whoever was pulling strings behind Crescent Talent Collective was doing it with precision. He couldn't see the puppet master, but he felt the pull, and it was personal. Victor stared at the stack of unpaid invoices on his desk. Liquor deliveries late, light fixtures flickering, musicians backing out of gigs. His credit line was stretched thin, and the books were bleeding red. If this ghost agency thought they could take everything he built and leave him behind, they were mistaken. He lit a cigarette with a trembling hand and dialed a number he hadn't used in years. Yeah, he muttered when the man answered. I need a name. Whoever's behind Crescent Talent Collective. 2 days later, Victor stood outside a beige, nondescript bank building, a manila folder in hand. He thumbed through the photocopies, corporate filings, wire transfer trails, anonymized trust accounts. Then he found it. Liam Hayes, former tech founder, millionaire, current bartender. Victor's smile curled slow and sour. That night, Emma arrived at the Crescent Club, surprised to see her name still up on the chalkboard outside. She'd assumed Victor would have taken it down out of spite. Inside, the crowd was lighter than usual, but still warm. Familiar faces nodded to her as she passed. She found Liam behind the bar, his smile cautious. "Didn't expect you tonight," he said. Emma shrugged. "I'm not done with this place yet." He started her tea without asking. She hesitated, then asked, "You ever feel like something's circling you? Like a shadow you didn't invite?" Liam paused, hand hovering over the kettle. "Yeah," he said quietly, "more than once." Before either could say more, Victor stepped onto the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, microphone in hand, voice smooth and oily. "Before our headliner tonight, I wanted to share a little truth with y'all. A story, really, about how sometimes the people pouring your drinks might just be pouring lies." Liam stiffened. Emma's head whipped toward the stage. Victor continued. "Turns out, the man behind Crescent Talent Collective isn't some noble patron. He's a millionaire hiding behind a bar rag, playing puppet master with careers and hearts." The room stirred with gasps and whispers. Emma turned back to Liam. "Tell me it's not true." Liam opened his mouth, then closed it. Not because he didn't want to speak, but because he couldn't find the words fast enough to catch what had just unraveled. Emma stepped back, as if physically struck. Victor's voice rang out again. "That's right, folks. The guy pretending to be just the bartender, he bought your attention. He bought her airtime, bought every gig she's been offered. Must be nice to have a fortune tucked behind your apron." The mic squealed as he dropped it and walked off stage, smug and victorious. Liam took a step toward Emma, but she raised a hand. "Don't," she said softly. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were steady. "Not here." Then she turned and walked out into the night, leaving Liam frozen, the kettle still hissing behind him. Victor poured himself a drink from behind the now empty bar, toasting his own reflection in the mirror. He'd pulled the mask off the man in the shadows. But what he hadn't expected, what he couldn't predict, was whether Emma would see betrayal, or something deeper behind the truth. The next morning, Emma stood in front of a cracked mirror in her apartment bathroom, brushing her curls back into a head wrap. Her phone buzzed on the sink, but she didn't check it. Not yet. Her inbox had already flooded overnight. Texts, missed calls, even an email from a freelance journalist asking if she'd like to clarify her relationship with the millionaire benefactor. Emma stared at her reflection. She didn't see scandal or success. She saw confusion, hurt, and a dull flicker of something that felt like shame, though she couldn't tell whose it was, Liam's or her own. She thought about every kind thing he'd done, every quiet moment, every word of encouragement. But the lie, that lie by omission, had painted everything in a new shade. Liam sat alone on a wrought iron bench in Armstrong Park, the morning sun bleeding through the cypress trees. He hadn't slept. The words Victor had thrown across the room were still echoing in his skull. He had wanted to tell her, so many times, but he'd convinced himself that silence was a kind of protection, that his distance would keep her free, unburdened. Now, she probably thought the same as everyone else, that he'd been pulling strings to feel powerful, not to keep her safe. Carla approached from the walking trail, a cup of café au lait in each hand. "You look like a man who tried to juggle fire and ended up torching his eyebrows," she said, handing him one. He took the coffee, eyes still fixed on the ground. "I didn't mean to lie. You didn't mean to stay silent either. You just did." Liam exhaled hard through his nose. "She's not picking up." "Give her space," Carla said, sitting beside him. "But not too much. Distance turns confusion into resentment." He nodded slowly, but the knot in his chest stayed tight. Later that afternoon, Emma walked into the converted garage studio where Crescent Talent had claimed to be headquartered. She stood in front of the chipped red door, staring at the black mailbox. Suite B, 412, Clemont Street. She knocked twice. No answer. She knocked again. A teenage intern from the neighboring photography studio poked her head out. "Looking for Crescent Talent?" Emma nodded. "They don't actually work here," the girl said. "That box is just a drop point. I pick up their mail sometimes." Emma blinked. "You know who runs it?" "Nope," the girl said with a shrug. "They Venmo me for my trouble, though." Emma thanked her and walked off, more puzzled than angry. She had no one to yell at, no office to confront, just shadows. That evening, back at her apartment, Mel arrived with takeout and 2 cans of root beer. "You good?" he asked as they settled on the couch. Emma poked at the shrimp lo mein without answering. "You mad at Liam?" "I don't even know," she said finally. "He did everything right. He helped me, protected me, made sure I was paid, promoted, and never once asked for credit. So, what's the problem?" She looked down. "He didn't trust me enough to tell the truth." Mel nodded, quiet for a moment. "Maybe he didn't trust himself. You ever think about that?" Emma sighed. "That's the thing. I don't think he ever wanted control. He just wanted to be near me, without changing what I was." Mel leaned back. "That's rare, and terrifying." Emma turned her face toward the open window. The hum of the street below mixed with a trumpet solo drifting from a neighbor's stereo. "Can I forgive someone for lying to protect me?" she whispered, "even if it changed how I see everything?" Mel shrugged. "Only you can answer that." Across the city, Liam stood in the bar's storage room, staring at a folder he hadn't opened in weeks, the original pitch deck for Crescent Talent Collective. He pulled out the first page, a mission statement he wrote in a hotel room months ago. To amplify authentic voices without branding them, to lift without labeling, to give without claiming. He hadn't broken that promise, but maybe silence was its own kind of ownership. And maybe it was time to let her choose, this time with everything in the open. The streets of the French Quarter were still dark when Liam stepped out of his apartment, the city quiet except for the low rumble of a garbage truck turning the corner. Morning mist clung to the pavement like breath that refused to leave. He hadn't planned on walking, but his thoughts needed motion, and his heart needed clarity. Half a mile later, he stopped in front of the Crescent Club, its neon sign flickering faintly, as if it, too, were waking from a restless night. The front gate was locked, but Liam didn't go there to enter. He went to meet a ghost from his recent past, one dressed in expensive linen with revenge on his tongue. Victor Moralo stepped from the alley, a cigar already lit and smoldering at the edge. "You always did like dramatic hours," Victor said, exhaling a plume of smoke. "I figured it was time to stop hiding," Liam replied, steady. Victor chuckled. "Too late for that, Hayes. The damage is done. Her trust is broken. You're not the mysterious hero anymore. You're just another man who couldn't be honest." Liam didn't flinch. "That might be true, but I didn't lie to exploit her. I stayed quiet so she could rise without strings." Victor's smile sharpened. "Except now, she's tangled in more than just strings. She's tangled in you, and the city's watching." Liam stepped closer, voice calm but firm. "What do you want, Victor?" Victor took another drag from his cigar, then pulled a small envelope from his jacket pocket and handed it to Liam. Inside, an overdue loan notice. A massive sum. Crescent Club survival hung by a thread. "I did some digging," Victor said. "Saw your silent buyout of that debt. Clever move. Keeps me on stage just long enough to burn myself out." "I didn't do it to own you," Liam said. "I did it so you wouldn't destroy Emma trying to get even." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Here's the deal. Bartender turned billionaire. You disappear. Publicly. quietly. Pull Crescent talent off the map. Let her struggle like the rest. Or I take this little fairy tale of yours and spin it into a full-blown media circus." Liam's jaw tightened. "You'd ruin her just to spite me?" "I don't care about her," Victor said coldly. "She was leverage, until you made her the prize." Liam stared at him, silent for a long moment. Then he said, "You're right. I should have told her from the start, but I'm not walking away." Victor snorted. "Then she burns with you." By noon, Emma sat alone on a bench at the Lafayette Square, sipping coffee from a paper cup. Her phone buzzed again, Liam's name lighting up the screen. She didn't decline it. She didn't answer it either. Instead, she opened a different email, one she'd nearly forgotten, a booking offer for a jazz festival in Nashville. Solo act, big stage, no agency listed, just Emma Laurent. She stared at it, wondering if it was still hers or if the magic had all been smoke and mirrors. Then she heard footsteps. She turned to see Liam approaching slowly, hands in his pockets, face open, vulnerable. "I know I'm the last person you want to see right now," he began, voice low. Emma didn't speak. "I turned down Victor's threat," he continued. "He told me to walk away from you, or he'd take you down with me." Emma's eyebrows lifted, but she said nothing. "I'm not disappearing, Emma. Not this time. I'm done hiding. I just want you to know, if you walk away, I'll understand. But if you stay, it'll be with the truth between us." A breeze stirred the air, rustling magnolia leaves overhead. Emma studied him. "You still think you can save me?" "No," he said gently. "I think you saved yourself. I just built a quieter path." She looked away, eyes misting, then nodded slowly. But her answer, like her song, would come when the curtain rose. The Crescent Club hadn't buzzed like this in months. By 8:45 p.m., the room pulsed with life. Shoulder-to-shoulder bodies, murmuring voices, a brass trio tuning up near the back wall. It wasn't just another Friday night set. This was Emma Laurent's return. The chalkboard outside had her name in bold cursive. Emma Laurent, one night only. She hadn't confirmed it herself, but after what happened at the park, Liam's quiet confession, his refusal to disappear, she chose to show up anyway, not for Victor, not even for the crowd, for the music, for herself. Behind the stage curtain, Emma adjusted the mic clip with steady hands. Her dress was deep plum, her heels modest. She looked elegant, but grounded, ready to face whatever might come. Mel peeked his head in from stage right. "Place is packed. Standing room only." She exhaled. "Let's make it worth it." "Word of advice?" he said, resting a hand on her shoulder. "Whatever happens, sing first, feel later." She gave him a grateful nod. The lights dimmed. The host tapped the mic. "Please welcome back to the Crescent Club stage, the one and only Emma Laurent." Applause erupted as she stepped into the spotlight. She smiled, inhaled slowly, and began. The first note floated effortlessly through the air, velvet smooth and aching with beauty. A hush settled, the kind only truth could earn. But then, a sudden voice sliced through the silence. "Tell them who paid for that spotlight, Emma." Gasps rippled across the room. Emma blinked mid-note. Victor stepped onto the stage, holding a mic he'd snatched from the sound booth. "She's been playing all of y'all," he sneered, pacing in front of the piano. "Every radio segment, every fancy gig, funded by the man pretending to be her bartender. That's right, Liam Hayes, tech millionaire. Your humble drink slinger bought her way in." The room recoiled, murmurs turning into audible tension. Liam, standing near the back wall, froze. Emma didn't move. Her face remained unreadable. Victor turned to her with a grin. Go on, sweetheart. Tell them how your fairy god billionaire made you the darling of the jazz scene. Or maybe he didn't tell you everything either? Liam stepped forward. Victor, stop. But Emma raised her hand. Let him finish. Victor's smile faltered. Oh, don't worry. I'm done. The floor's yours, Songbird. He dropped the mic and exited through the side curtain, leaving a wreckage of stunned silence behind. Emma stood still, the mic trembling slightly in her hand. Her eyes met Liam's across the room. The crowd waited. She took a step back, then another, and walked off the stage. The audience erupted in whispers, unsure whether to clap, stay seated, or simply leave. Liam followed her through the backstage hallway, calling her name. Emma, wait, please. She stopped in front of the exit door, her back to him. Why didn't you tell me this was still happening? I didn't know Victor would pull that tonight, Liam said. I swear. She turned, eyes rimmed with disbelief. No, I mean all of it. Why let me get booked, featured, applauded, when every step was funded by you? I wanted you to shine on your own terms, he said softly, without anyone reducing your wins to a man's money, including me. But they're doing it anyway, she snapped, and now it feels like none of it was mine. It was always yours, he said, voice thick. I just didn't want the world to steal your voice again. Emma stared at him for a long moment, heart racing, throat tight. Then she whispered, But you didn't trust me enough to share the truth. Liam nodded slowly. You're right. She stepped out into the humid night without another word. The door clicked shut behind her, and in the empty hallway, Liam stood alone with nothing but echoes. The moon sat low over the Mississippi River, casting silver ripples across the water as Emma wandered the levee in heels too pretty for gravel. Her dress clung to her legs in the night breeze, and her breath came in shallow waves, caught somewhere between fury and heartbreak. She wrapped her arms around herself as if trying to hold her center together. This wasn't how it was supposed to unfold. Not tonight, not like that. She thought of Liam's face under the spotlight's glare, shocked, speechless, ashamed. But the pain wasn't from the truth itself. It was from the silence that had preceded it. Back at the Crescent Club, the crowd had thinned, but the tension hung thick in the air. Some patrons whispered, others left their drinks half full and shuffled out with awkward glances. Liam stood near the back, unmoving, watching the space where Emma had been just minutes ago. He didn't try to explain to anyone. What was the point? This wasn't a misunderstanding he could fix with a press release or a donation. This was personal. Carla approached slowly, drying her hands with a dish towel. You all right? Liam looked at her with tired eyes. Would you be? Carla let out a long breath. You tried to protect her, but you ended up putting her in a spotlight she didn't choose. And tonight, Victor made sure it burned. Liam gave a faint, rueful smile. That's the thing about spotlights. You can't control what they reveal. Carla touched his arm. Then maybe it's time she sings without needing one. Across the city, Emma found herself in an all-night diner, tucked into a corner booth beneath flickering neon lights. Her plate of grits sat untouched. She scrolled through her phone, headlines already forming. Bartender, billionaire, backer, jazz. Scenes Cinderella revealed. Was Emma Laurent's rise authentic or engineered? She powered the screen off. A waitress with a soft Louisiana drawl set a fresh pot of coffee on the table. You need anything else, sugar? Emma looked up, forcing a small smile. Just quiet, if you've got any to spare. The woman winked and left her be. The next morning, Emma returned home to find a small envelope slipped under her door. No name, no return address, just a handwritten note inside. For when you're ready to hear, not from the crowd, but from me. Enclosed was a USB drive. She stared at it for a long time, then set it aside. That afternoon, she stepped into her rehearsal space, a small rental above a music store in mid-city. Mel was already there, plucking keys on the upright piano. "Hey," he said, pausing when she entered. She dropped her bag in the corner and sat beside him. "I want to rehearse." He studied her face. "You sure?" "No," she admitted, "but I need to play through the silence." They worked in near silence for an hour. No small talk, no fanfare, just the slow rebuilding of rhythm, one blue note at a time. At one point, she stopped mid-phrase, hand trembling slightly. "Did it ever feel like the music wasn't mine?" she asked. Mel looked at her, thoughtful. "No, but it's okay if it does now. You just gotta reclaim it." Emma nodded, wiping the corners of her eyes. "Then let's start there." That night, alone in her apartment, Emma finally plugged in the USB. A single audio file loaded, a voicemail. Liam's voice filled the room, raw, unfiltered. "I never wanted to be the man behind the curtain, Emma. I just didn't know how to be near you without messing everything up. But I never bought your talent. I just wanted the world to hear what I heard that first night. And I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. If you never speak to me again, I get it. But if there's still music left between us, I'll wait." Emma closed her eyes as his words settled into the silence. And for the first time in days, she didn't feel alone. The Monday morning air felt different, less like judgment, more like possibility. Emma stood outside the Crescent Club, a black portfolio tucked beneath her arm, her fingers lightly tapping a rhythm against its worn leather edge. She hadn't been back since the night Victor ambushed her on stage, but something inside her refused to let him control the ending. She walked through the front door without waiting to be greeted. The place was nearly empty, chairs still flipped on tables, the lingering smell of old whiskey and lemon oil clinging to the walls. Victor was at the bar, scribbling numbers into a spiral notebook, jaw tight. He looked up, startled. "Didn't expect to see you here." Emma didn't sit. She didn't even blink. "I came to talk." Victor leaned back on his stool. "You here to negotiate? I've still got pull with a few labels." "No," she cut in. "I'm not here to ask for anything. I'm here to reclaim something." Victor raised an eyebrow. "Your pride?" "My name," she said firmly. "You took it the night you twisted my story into your soapbox. So I'm setting it straight." She opened her portfolio and placed a letter on the bar, an official press statement signed by her, Mel, and several venue owners who had booked her independently. "I didn't ride anyone's coattails. I accepted gigs. I showed up. I delivered. And if people think that discredits me, let them try filling a room the way I do." Victor glanced at the paper, unimpressed. "And what makes you think anyone's still listening?" Emma reached into her coat and pulled out a folded flyer. New Orleans Jazz Revival, featuring Emma Laurent. Solo spotlight at the Civic Theater. "This Friday," she said. "Tickets are already half sold, and not a single dollar of Liam Hayes' money touched it." Victor's smug expression cracked. "You think this city forgets headlines that fast?" Emma's voice dropped. "Maybe not, but it remembers heart, and I've got more of that than you've ever had stage time." She turned to leave, then paused. "You could have helped artists, Victor. Instead, you just played gatekeeper. People see that now." He didn't reply. He didn't have to. The silence said enough. That afternoon, Emma met with a young reporter from the Times-Delta at a sunny cafe in mid-city. Her curls were pinned back, her tone poised but unflinching. "I won't tell the story to clear my name," she told the reporter. "I'll tell it to remind people. Support doesn't have to be secret, but it better come with respect." The article ran the next morning with the headline, "Emma Laurent Breaks the Silence, Talent, Truth, and Taking Back Her Stage." It didn't paint Liam as a villain. It painted him as human. and it painted Emma as exactly what she was: resilient, flawed, powerful. Liam read the piece in his apartment, the sunlight warming his coffee as the weight on his chest began to lift. Emma hadn't reached out. She hadn't shut him out either. That was enough, for now. He scrolled through her interview, stopping at one quote. "No, one builds a dream alone. But they have to walk it honestly. I know who I am now, not because someone gave me a stage, but because I learned how to stay standing on it." He closed his laptop and stared out the window, heart full. Friday night arrived with electric air. Emma stood in the wings of the Civic Theater, the roar of an eager crowd swelling beyond the curtains. She wore a fitted navy gown, her hands wrapped around a microphone that was entirely hers. Mel squeezed her shoulder. "You ready?" She nodded once. "More than I've ever been." The lights dimmed. The host stepped up. "Ladies and gentlemen, the incomparable, undeniable Emma Laurent." The crowd roared as she stepped into the spotlight. And this time, every note, every breath, every truth was hers alone. The last note of Emma's encore hung in the air like a held breath. Then the room erupted, cheers rising like floodwaters, a standing ovation rippling from the front row to the balconies above. Emma stood center stage at the Civic Theater, bathed in amber light, her chest rising and falling as she soaked it in. Not the praise, not the applause. The affirmation. This moment wasn't borrowed or bought. It belonged to her. She stepped back, gave a modest bow, and exited stage left, where Mel was waiting with a towel and a grin. "Kid," he said, draping the towel over her shoulders, "you just burned that place down." She chuckled, breathless. "I almost forgot what it felt like to sing without explaining myself." Mel nudged her. "Because you don't owe them explanations, just truth." She nodded, then turned toward the dressing room. Waiting outside the door was someone she didn't expect, but somehow knew would come. Liam. He stood quietly, hands clasped in front of him, suit slightly wrinkled from the long show, his expression caught between hope and hesitation. Emma stopped a few feet away. "You came." "I wouldn't have missed it," he said, "even if I had to sit in the last row with my heart in my throat." She looked at him for a long moment, searching for something she hadn't let herself look for since the night Victor humiliated them both. Liam filled the silence, his voice soft. "I don't expect forgiveness. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. But there's something I need to say, without a stage, without an audience." Emma leaned against the doorway, arms crossed loosely. "I didn't fall for you because of your voice," he said. "That came later. I fell for how you fought for it, how you never let the noise drown you out, even when the noise was me." Her lips parted slightly, but she said nothing. "I should have told you everything from the beginning," Liam continued, "but I didn't know how to be close to someone without messing it up. I thought helping anonymously would keep you free, but freedom without trust isn't real." Emma looked down for a moment, then met his eyes. "Why didn't you just let me walk away when Victor threatened you?" "Because I wasn't afraid of what he'd say," Liam said. "I was afraid of who I'd become if I let someone like that define what love looks like." The word sat between them, fragile and raw. Emma exhaled slowly. "You still think this is love?" "I don't know what else it could be," he said. "But I'm not asking for a second chance. I'm just asking you to know I see you. Not the singer, not the survivor, just you, and I like her. Enough to risk being told I don't deserve her." Emma stepped closer. Her voice was quiet but steady. "It wasn't the lie that broke me, Liam. It was realizing I wasn't the only one carrying weight in silence, and maybe that means we were both hiding." Liam's brows lifted just slightly. "So, where does that leave us?" Emma smiled faintly, and her voice softened. "It leaves us at the place where truth begins." She reached into her clutch and handed him a folded flyer. Truth and Jazz. Grand Opening Celebration. He looked up, confused. You're opening a venue? We're reopening one, she said. I bought out Victor's stake, with a little help from someone who believed in me, and taught me how to believe in myself. His eyes shimmered. You'd want me to be part of that? Emma tilted her head. Only if you come as you are. No more masks, no more silent deals. Liam took the flyer slowly, as if it might vanish in his hand. I can do that, he said, voice low. She touched his hand briefly, just enough to remind him the music wasn't over. It had only just changed keys. 2 months later, the neon sign flickered to life for the first time. Truth and Jazz. It wasn't just a name, it was a promise. The old Crescent Club had been gutted, stripped of its velvet pretensions and rebuilt with warmth. Earth-toned walls, exposed brick, reclaimed wood, and photos of New Orleans musicians, living and gone, framed in silver and gold. The stage was lower now, closer to the people. The bar was longer, the chairs mismatched, the light intimate but forgiving. It didn't pretend to be glamorous. It just was what it was. Real. Inside, Emma stood near the front doors, greeting guests with a wide smile, and a subtle grace that came not from performance, but from presence. Look at this place, Mel said beside her in awe. You'd never know it used to smell like spilled gin and bad decisions. Emma laughed. We kept the floors. For history. Mel nudged her. You ready? Emma took a deep breath and looked around. Every detail meant something, from the hand-painted mural behind the bar to the small wooden plaque by the door that read, No one rises alone. She nodded. I'm ready. From across the room, Liam approached, dressed in dark jeans and a navy blazer, no mask, no titles, just Liam. Place looks incredible, he said, slipping a hand into his pocket to hide his nerves. You helped build it, Emma replied, with more than money. He smiled, quietly touched. Still hard to believe you wanted me involved after everything. Emma turned fully toward him. You showed me what it looked like to be lifted quietly. Now I want to lift out loud, with people who walk beside me, not behind me. Before he could answer, the house lights dimmed and soft clapping began as the crowd settled into their seats. Mel took the mic first. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not often a venue reopens under new hands, new hearts, and a whole new rhythm. But tonight is proof that reinvention is real, and no one's voice has earned this moment more than the woman you came to hear. Applause swelled. Please welcome home, Emma Laurent. Emma stepped onto the stage in a flowing emerald dress. No makeup-heavy mask, no flashy intro, just her, standing still, mic in hand, the light catching the small gold charm around her neck, a crescent moon, a quiet nod to beginnings and belief. She waited for the room to settle. Then she spoke. Before I sing, I want to say something I wish someone had told me when I was starting out. You don't need to be discovered to be worthy. You don't need validation to be real. You just need truth and the courage to tell it. She looked at Liam in the front row, his eyes locked on hers. And sometimes, she added, you find someone who helps you tell it louder than you ever thought you could. The music began, a slow, honey-smooth intro, her original song, Undone. It wasn't a power ballad. It was intimate, lyrical, woven with vulnerability. Her voice wrapped around the room like velvet smoke, rising and falling with gentle confidence. Every lyric bore witness to her journey, the nights she questioned herself, the lies she overcame, the people who stayed, and the man who dared to care too much. When the last note faded, the silence lingered, not out of hesitation, but reverence. Then came the standing ovation. Liam stood too, hands trembling as he clapped, not just for her voice, but for her truth. After the show, he met her backstage. She didn't say anything, just stepped into his arms, holding him tightly. No words were needed. The music had said it all. Outside, the marquee lights shined steady in the Louisiana night. And inside, among laughter and jazz and shared memories, a new kind of love was playing. Honest, imperfect, and finally, in tune. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or brought a tear to your eye, that's why we tell it. Stay with us for more powerful stories. See you next time.